Hello, welcome to Great Love and Sex through IFS. I'm Percy Ballard.
I'm Emily Liu, and we are here to teach you how to have a great love and sex life through the lens of spiritual psychology.
Yes, so we're going to do a special video today because someone has sent a question that I thought was a really good one that we both thought was excellent. So Emily, what is the question we had?
The question that we got through Messenger was, hey you guys, I love your show. Definitely refreshing to hear people talk about those issues openly. Could you please talk about the effects of pornography on one's relationship? So we're going to talk about that because Dr. Percy Ballard is an addictions specialist.
Right, so and often porn is associated with addiction, so we're going to take this from an addictions, a neurobiological lens. We're also going to take it from an IFS lens. We will even take it from a Tantra lens. And we might just start there. So when it comes to healthy sexual relationships, as we see it, as it's seen through the lens of Tantra and a lot of other comparable views on sexuality, there are two main aspects. And we can go back to one of our favorite books, Sexual Intelligence by Marty Klein, and subtitled What We Really Want from Sex and How to Get It. So in surveying a lot of people, what people really get from sex is on one end, connection, and on another end, pleasure. We try to get a lot of different other things from sex and it doesn't work, but we do get connection and pleasure from sex. Very intelligent person that I know had come up with an interesting analogy for this, in that if you want to make a cake, you need flour and you need sugar. And of course the pleasure is the sugar, and everything that makes the cake stick together is the flour and all the other ingredients. But we'll just say flour. That's the connection. What can happen in pornography? Of course there's a wide variety of pornography out there, so I've heard. And and
we're not going to judge the quality of any of this. That's not the point of this video.
Right. Most of the pornography out there is about the sugar, is about the raw pleasure in sex. And you can have a sexual relationship that's based on sugar, but it doesn't really hold together. You need some connection too in order to fill it out. What the whole Tantra approach is, or a Tantra approach in sexuality, Tantra is a wide variety of things which we could get to later, but specifically is when it comes to sexuality, we do want a blend of, we do want sugar to be present and we want flour to be present. We want them to mix together to make a healthy, long-lasting sexual relationship. So people can have their entire sexual diet based purely on sugar.
That's boring, right? After a while it gets boring. It's like eating donuts for the rest of your life.
Well, right. You don't want to just eat the sugar. If we wanted to eat just the sugar, we would eat the damn sugar.
Yeah.
But you want to eat a cake. You like the whole cake.
You want a healthy cake.
Right. You want a healthy cake. Ooh.
That's kind of an oxymoron.
You might teach us how to make a healthy cake. I don't know how to do that.
Another video.
Another video on how to make a healthy cake, but today we're going to talk about how to make a healthy sex cake, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
What can happen is that people will try to get all of their sexual needs met through the sugar, through the pleasure, through essentially the pornographic aspects of sex. And they might try to get more and more of it, but they're not getting fulfilled. So of course, I'm having sex, I'm having pleasurable sex, but it's not fulfilling me. So maybe I should add more sugar in there. And so you get more and more sugar, and you can have someone's entire sex diet purely based on the sugar. And in other words, someone can have a purely pornographic sex diet. That is not going to be fulfilling to a person, and they'll feel very addicted to pornography because they're not getting the whole picture, all of their sexual needs met there.
But Dr. Ballard, this pornographic addiction, isn't it like other addictions, such as alcohol and food, because these are addiction based on unfulfilled needs of the child parts.
Sure. So you are taking, you can convert it to alcohol and other types of addictions, gambling. You're getting a need. I mean, it starts out by just, having fun, but it ends up you're getting a need met. And the thing is, you're almost getting the need met. It's that thing that is like, it feels almost like the whole picture, but it's not quite the whole picture, which is why one keeps looking for more and more of it.
Yeah, and essentially, because if you keep on with this sugar diet of sex, all you're doing is expressing one part of who you are.
Right.
And we are not just like the sexual being that wants an orgasm.
We're not walking genitalia.
Yes. We have other parts of us where we want to be able to show the emotional parts of who we are.
Right.
Being able to feel safe to talk about all of the hurts that we've had, the fears and the vulnerabilities or dreams.
Right.
We want to feel heard.
Right.
Yeah.
So we want we want to be whole people. All of our parts do want to be expressed. Our genitalia wants to be expressed. We can't neglect that. And there are other ways besides sex to engage in that expression, from our sexuality. But that being said, we want our hearts to be expressed. We want to be emotionally heard and felt. We also want to think, want to engage intellectually. And so, there are kind of three levels. You can see it as chakras. But we want to mix them together. What tends to happen is we tend to compartmentalize. So in a relationship, when you're talking about pornography, you can have both people entirely enraptured in the sugar aspect of sex.
Nothing wrong with that, because you're both having your primal parts of who you are be in the act.
Right. It will probably fizzle out if there aren't the flower aspects of you, the heart and the mind. If they aren't involved, then of course the sugar's going to fizzle out. And it won't be a long-lasting connection that feels totally fulfilling to the both of you. There's another scenario with pornography where you have two partners and they might have a very good flower relationship. So they might be very emotionally connected, they might be great friends, but there's no sugar in the relationship.
Then that's just like friends.
Both, right. So they're just like, friends, good roommates, they're great, they get along. One partner can start to look, one or both partners can start to look for sugar in other places. So you might have one partner that is addicted to pornography and getting the sugar elsewhere. They still might have the flower. There might be some problems with the flower, the heart connection in the relationship. Who knows? But what we want to do is we want to take that compartmentalization out of this. The sugar and the flower don't have to be separate things. So there are some people who can think about their partner as someone who they want to connect with, in our sense, but someone they don't want to have sex with. How about bringing some sugar into the flower of your relationship? So you can start by connecting emotionally, but start bringing some pleasure and some sensuality into the relationship, into the partnership.
And I think that also speaks to the inability of some partners in relationships, especially after you've been in a long marriage or a long-term relationship, where the communication has gone down and you don't even know where to start the courageous vulnerability. And that's where we have other videos that we can link to, so for you to understand how to start the conversation to say, I'm feeling disconnected. It's emotional connection that all of us are looking for, because sex and orgasm that's just like satisfying an urge. It's like sneezing. But if you don't have all the other layers that makes intimacy so inviting, pornography can get in the way. Pornography is just a Band-Aid.
Right. So let's talk about it in that way, because there are relationships where there's a lot of flour, not enough sugar. There's a lot of relationships where there's not enough sugar, where there's a lot of sugar but not enough flour. And what we want to do is we want to wire all of those connections together.
Yeah.
We want to have the total package. We want the flour and the sugar in the same place so that we can make our cake. So if you have a sexual diet that is all about the sugar, then bring some flour into that. Have someone, put their hand on your chest and do some deep breathing with them. Look into their eyes. Like really, have a vulnerable conversation with this person. Or start opening up little tiny windows of vulnerability. It doesn't have to be all on the table out at once. But start intentionally bringing some flour into that sugar relationship.
And if you can't do it on your own, this is where you do need to seek a couples therapist to help you along with the communications.
Yeah, it can be a couples therapist, it can be a tantra workshop, it can be a sex therapist, it can be a book that you want to look at that you feel like is a good resource.
Podcasts. There's some very nice podcasts that talks about relationships.
Yeah. So there are resources for bringing. If you want to expand your sexuality and bring more flour into your sugar relationship. Also, if you have a relationship that is just flour and doesn't have enough sugar, and maybe someone is looking for the sugar in the pornography as opposed to in the relationship, see if there are ways to expand your flour relationship and add more sugar into it. And that, when you have the flour and the sugar in the same place, it's so fulfilling that often one can let go of the need for getting that sugar elsewhere. But it's really something that has to intentionally be done, because we have a way, I think our culture has a way of wiring the sugar separately from the flour. We want to have those pathways. What fires together wires together. We want those pathways to be firing at the same time so that we can retrain our entire neurological system to have both in the same place. And that is what really feels fulfilling in a sex life for the majority of people. Now, of course, there might be other ways of looking at this. We're open to them. If you have any questions that you want to ask us, or if you're looking for a consultation in this area from either of us or both of us, do feel free to email us. The email address is greatloveandsex@gmail.com. And we'd be happy to get back to you.
Yep. And so just to wrap this up, could pornography affect one's relationship? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It could be beneficial if you're both on the same sheet of music about adding pornography to spice up the love life.
Right. So if your relationship is all flour and you need some sugar, and sugar is something that you both agree on can help it out, then that's great. You just don't want it to be the whole diet. So yeah, it can affect the relationship positively or negatively. Some people might argue that it has a more negative effect than positive. We don't know. We don't know the statistics on that.
It depends on the state of your relationship and how you communicate with one another. So you could come to an agreement of how pornography plays into your relationship. And then there's also the types of pornography. Some are much more sensual than others, and you have to have a conversation about that.
Right. What really works out for the relationship?
Yeah.
What really works in the intention of bringing flour and sugar together in that relationship? So that's how we put it, and we're not necessarily commenting on the ethics of things and the ethics of pornography, but we do want to comment on what works and what doesn't. And I think that's what the question was centered on.
Yeah, so hopefully this gives you a little bit more food for thought so that you can come to a decision of how do I want to add in pornography into your relationship so that you can spice things up. Or how you could talk about, even if you're using it to masturbate, why not share it with your partner that's what you're doing? This creates intimacy.
Right.
For the times that the other partner may not be in the mood to have sex, as long as it's not a full diet of sugar.
That's great. So there's a conscious choice here.
Yes.
In terms of what relationship do you personally want to have with pornography, and does it serve you, does it not? how can it serve you, or how, in what ways doesn't it serve you?
Yeah.
And also a conscious choice for any group of 2 or more partners to decide what relationship do they want to have with pornography. What role do they want pornography to serve in their relationship or not?
And that creates the intimacy that we all want to have fulfilling relationships. So hopefully this video was helpful in answering the question, how can pornography affect relationships?
Great.
And it's not a cut and dry answer.
Cool. So subscribe, comment, feel free to comment below. Feel free to email us, greatloveatsex@gmail.com. We'll be happy to get back to you either way.
Okay,
Thanks
take
for tuning
care.
in.
Yep,
Bye-bye.
bye.